everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Guitar Tone Tuesday. There's a bit of a stir going on in the guitar community right now over the Gibson Guitar Company and a video that they released and then promptly took offline, and then now an impending lawsuit with Dean Guitars. And I just wanted to shed my 2 cents on the issue. I'm honestly just going to talk about this one time and then that's it, because I really like to be a positive person. I don't like to stir up the pot. I am somebody who really just wants to make content for you guys to know a little bit more about underdog brands or underdog models of guitar that maybe were not as popular as others, sometimes vintage guitars, sometimes techniques. So that's kind of my whole thing on YouTube right now. But I just wanted to talk about my perspective and give you guys some perhaps words of wisdom as someone who is a full-time player of guitars. Now, naturally, your mileage might vary from mine, but I see myself, one, I'm a musician who performs regularly, I teach regularly, and I record, and these are my 3 revenue streams. I am not someone who does music on the side. I've made the choice to do this as a life choice for myself. So my experience with Gibson guitars was when I was in grade 10 for Christmas. My parents pitched in, along with a great deal of my own money, and we bought a Gibson 137, which was basically a thinned out 175 body shape. So basically it looked like a big Les Paul in layman's terms. Had the pointy cutaway on the bottom, and it had a center block going through the center of the guitar, and it was the poplar maple construction. So basically like a 335, but the shape of a big Les Paul. And it was 16 inches at the lower bout, just like a 335. So I don't know if you guys remember that model of guitar or not, but I owned this guitar for about 6 years, and I owned it for some of the formative years of my musical development, some of the important years, I think. Grade 10, I was playing in jazz band in high school, grade 11, grade 12, and then into university where I studied jazz guitar. So this was kind of the guitar that I took out for special occasions when I really wanted to play something that was nice. And the guitar looked great and it sounded amazing. But I had a few issues with that guitar. And the issues were mainly one time on a festival gig, I went to go change my pickup selector up here, because that's where the pickup selector was on that guitar, and it just shattered. So all of a sudden I had no pickup selector. And I wasn't doing anything abusive. I'm not an abusive player by any means. I am a heavy-handed player, but I'm not an abusive player. And then the other thing that happened was on a different gig, I was playing up here where the neck joined the body of the guitar, and all of a sudden I felt something against my ring finger, and it was binding coming off the neck. Lo and behold, the binding actually fell off the guitar onto the floor, and then after the gig was done, I kind of had to fish around on the ground and find my binding, and then eventually have it re-glued, and the neck never felt the same since that point, okay? Also, the inlays in the guitar were kind of sticking out of the fretboard. And at that point, what I thought was, I have a lemon guitar. But then after I read some stuff on forums, I realized that this unfortunately was not an uncommon thing for Gibson guitars at that time. Now, I'm not trying to bash Gibson instruments here at all. I have played some wonderful Gibsons. Actually, when we were just recording our new album, Catch the Westbound, I borrowed a 1961 acoustic 12-string Gibson, which was one of the best acoustic guitars I've ever played in my life. But it's my humble opinion that when there's guitars like this out there, and I'm going to get into this guitar in a second, Gibson should be taking note and should be making more affordable guitars that actually really do stay in tune and don't have these kind of quality control issues versus being a bully to other guitar brands. And I know this is what people are talking about online right now, but I just wanted to talk about my perspective. So as I said, I owned this Gibson guitar for 6 years, and I tried so hard to love it. One of the biggest qualms I had with the guitar, which admittedly was my own fault, was that I wanted the guitar in a certain color because I was young and stupid, and I ordered that color of guitar not realizing that that didn't have the neck profile that was comfortable for my hands. So a big part of the issue for me is I was getting some hand cramps because the neck was too skinny for my hands. I have relatively large hands and long fingers. So that was my own stupidity as a young musician, right? I wanted the right color and didn't think about that neck. But, there were those other issues, in addition to the guitar not really staying in tune. So I kind of accepted that that was the way it was going to be until one day I was in a music store close to Ottawa called Class Axe, and I tried this Eastman T185 MX guitar. And I'm not endorsed by Eastman in any way, shape, or form, but I did try this guitar, and without having the intention of buying an instrument, I walked away thinking, oh my gosh, I got to bring in my Gibson and trade it. I had never heard of Eastman guitars at that point in my life, but it's the first time I played a jazz guitar where I didn't feel like it was a struggle. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys some of the tones of this instrument, and then we'll get into the specs of it. So here's that neck pickup. Here's the two pickups together. And here's the bridge pickup. So a really, really great sounding guitar. Now, it looks like a 335 on the surface, but that's kind of where the similarities end, if I'm being honest, okay? This guitar has a solid maple top, solid mahogany back and sides, a solid mahogany neck, and the fretboard is ebony. The scale length is 25 inches, so that's kind of right between the Gibson and the Fender scale. And one important feature of this guitar is that the lower bout is 15 inches as opposed to 16. So for me being a relatively, let's say not a tall person, I'm about 5'10", it just fits me better than a 335 would. So I tried this guitar, instantly fell in love with it, knowing nothing about Eastman guitars, and not really caring about that, because it was around this time I was discovering that for my personal tastes, it doesn't matter what the guitar says on the headstock. It just matters how it feels in your hands and how it inspires you. Does it inspire you to write music? Does it inspire you to make some lovely sounds? And this instrument has done that for me for 7 years. And I just want to say something about this guitar also. I've owned it, as I say, for 7 years, and in that time, I never had to get the neck tweaked. I just got the frets leveled for the first time. I just got it back from the luthiers like last week, and it's playing great. But that's just because I played it like crazy. So I don't have those issues with binding coming off the neck or any inlays popping out or any of the issues I used to have with my old Gibson guitar. It just stays in tune really well. So in my opinion, what's going on right now with Gibson guitars, I just want to say, imitation is the best form of flattery. So if you have an iconic design that has been iconic because of the people who played that guitar and because it's been around for 60 plus years, you can rest on that and you can be happy with that and just keep making the best guitars you possibly can make, okay? That's my whole thing on this. And, when there's competition making guitars that are, half the price. This guitar I purchased for $1,700, but it's an all solid wood guitar. That's something to take note of. And I think instead of being a bully, just make the best guitars you can make. So that's just my opinion. I wanted to open up the comment section for your experiences or lack thereof with Gibson guitars, or even experiences or lack thereof with Eastman guitars. Have you guys ever tried these guitars? Do you like them? That's about it for this week. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you guys again next Tuesday.